Sorry. Come back for a minute. Try and like separate them. Okay, Jim. Through the device. Sort of split them in. I think what you do, baste it and then it might unfreeze it. I quite like the kitchen, by the way. All of that horrible ass meat filling as well. Next one, we're going to get free.
No. They cannot raid anymore. No. They have done their last raid for today. After 22 they can't. 21, I mean. They can't. They can still steal from the base. Until 23. They are, you know. But just put my money on the bank, cause this is a little bit too much money that I have on me. Okay. 7.4 million.
Still absolutely terrible. Chicken's finally getting there though. Orange is returning to life, but it's not any way to go, guys. Do not. So just don't do it. Let us do it. Yeah? If we die, you need to eat it first. Okay? So actually there is another ingredient in here, which is black pepper. Quite a lot actually. Good raw pepper, just raw whole peppercorns. They just get sprinkled in there.
So, Firestation Covering. From 3 minutes body cam time until we'll see.
Sir, are you alone, sir? Northgate.
10 for Banerjee, yes.
Okay, sir.
It tastes like absolute fun.
Good coffee.
It is fun. There we go. You know what? If it wasn't so shit, that wouldn't look terrible. Right. Okay, well that. What do you think, though, just by the way, do you think when we put when we offer the worst chef award, is she going to be high as the worst chef or lower? It's a strange one.
Southgate good copy.
We didn't know the process.
Southgate 2 units and 2 spice.
So really, it's all in the taste. So look,
I think what I'm going to do first, I'm going to try the noodles with some of the raw peppercorns. Chicken is well, you know, and I guarantee you the way she prepares is raw. So I've done this just for my head.
we've cooked probably 20 minutes.
In a boiling pan.
Bubbling in squash.
Beautiful.
No, it's not. It really isn't really.
It actually tastes really good.
No way.
It actually tastes really good. It's a bit too good. It's actually good. The noodles. And chicken. Now the chicken, frozen chicken is my pet peeve because when you freeze chicken, then you cook it. Not only is it not fresh, you risk food poisoning, but it takes all the flavour away. It has a particular taste. It's not too bad, is it?
It's not too bad.
Actually really good. It tastes like it's Chinese. It's got a rough texture.
I'll tell you what, Ron, what you guys do interesting these things, these recommendations, because this is actually bad. Isn't it?
No, not me.
Although, I would say this goes out.
Has the best worst recipe.
Yeah, the best shittest stuff. Like sweet.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And but imagine if you've got like
A chicken breast from the butcher's cooked in
Yeah.
properly.
and instead of using orange,
Instead of what? Strained orange?
yeah,
Using
using
orange.
orange,
If you did the ingredients properly, the taste, if this is good,
you know,
it would be so much better. With some seasoning, that's beautiful.
like cracked black pepper is just whole black
Yeah,
pepper.
that's nothing. I'm not taste that. That's no benefit.
And imagine if we didn't wash our chicken so ridiculously first.
Yeah, no need to wash the chicken in fairly liquid. And I'm not a fresh chicken fan either. But I basically
It's almost consumed, it's like food almost. That is delicious.
oh, no, no. We should add this to the list. Okay. When we make a video, we'll come back,
Yeah.
cook all of these boxes that we'll do. This with proper ingredients, proper cooking time, nothing frozen. And I think that'd be banging.
So yeah, in the comments below, guys, let us know which one of the recipes that we have cooked through the whole cooking series, ones that you want to see us do properly. Let me get the board,
because I know where this one is going.
Now, worship, see, worship, which is currently candy, and she's nowhere as that pale candy. Lucy that didn't taste good at all, but if she has to come forward, she has to put the place is the best. Right, so maybe you should put a lot of it stick at 8, because I don't think that's the best one. She's the only one that we have got back. I've actually gone back and you know, she should be nice. She's probably nice. Yeah, she should be okay.
She's the best worst chef. Auntie Jackie,
You are here, what?
surprisingly okay.
Auntie Jackie, number 9.
Auntie Jackie, you are number 9 and you are currently the best chef on the board.
Never would have thought that.
No, when you were cooking there, I was upset and sad and stressed. But you're finishing it.
I know, I've got to stop actually. Even the weirdly, even these
I know.
massive peppercorns aren't bothering me.
No.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Yeah! Oh, you can do it. Bouncing on the table in the kitchen. Fuck.
Someone introduced Southgate. He's going inside. He's driving a super sport Bugatti.
ICE raids and arrests in cities across the country. Boston, New York, and Newark, New Jersey. Some of them likely long planned, but unclear. So ICE raids are now happening across the Northeast, and thousands of people in the country unlawfully are now being removed. However, a new report has just come out revealing that New York is home to 670,000 people who aren't supposed to be here, and 58,000 of those people are folks with a prior criminal conviction, which means that the thousands of people arrested by ICE so far are nothing compared to what's coming next.
The Trump administration expanding a fast-track deportation for hundreds, which means enforcement agents can deport without requiring them to appear before an immigration judge. We have the worry, what will happen with us? Will they deport us? Will they give us asylum or not? He's one of many living in a New York City migrant shelter.
ICE agents have arrested more than 1,300 undocumented immigrants, which includes more than 1,000 criminals.
Here in New York, an alleged El Salvadorian MS-13 gang member, a Jamaican citizen facing charges, and a Honduran citizen convicted of drunk driving.
We know that there are well over 5 million households with a U.S. citizen, child, or spouse. These families will effectively be separated or forced to make decisions.
Meanwhile, federal government's put out a list of the people that have been apprehended, one of whom who has reckless bodily harm on his rap sheet. He has burglary, assault with a deadly weapon, and more. So those are the kind of winners that Democrats seem to be protecting right now.
So New York State is harboring 670,000 people who are not supposed to be here. But what nobody defending sanctuary cities wants to admit is that by allowing massive numbers of illegal residents to reside in them, these places just become magnets for criminals and gang members who exploit the other unlawful residents of these places and have a lot to do with why sanctuary cities are such a safety net. With ICE ramping up targeted operations with the goal of removing dangerous individuals and national security threats from our country, sanctuary cities like New York are about to get a whole lot safer than they've been over the past few years. Although they'll remain magnets for crime as their huge populations of those without legal status have them in the sights of human traffickers, businesses that exploit their workers, and gangs looking for new members. Something gangs like Venezuela's Tren de Aragua have been surprisingly effective at right here in New York, which does everything it can to help a person remain here long after an immigration judge has ordered them out of the country. And due to New York's lax legal system, after gang members here get arrested, they get released back into the general public instead of into federal custody where they belong. Plus, our laws that decriminalize theft, robbery, and assault basically make this place a playground for budding criminals looking to achieve their own twisted version of the American dream. And that brings us to the real reason why raids targeting criminals and gang members, the worst of the worst, are ramping up. These criminals have entire empires built on the backs of other illegal residents who are the people sanctuary city leaders claim they truly care about. And here you've got illegal criminals threatening other people who aren't supposed to be in the country, forcing them to do their dirty work. These criminals also profit from selling or renting fake IDs and identities to people who aren't supposed to be here, want normal jobs, but can't get them. And with over 400,000 such residents in New York City alone, ICE raids here are set to become more common in everyday locations and businesses as the federal government tries to root out dangerous offenders. Plus, as you're about to see, when ICE raids a harmless-looking apartment or business, oftentimes the people they take down have been convicted of something serious. So here we are by a slew of local businesses in Lower Manhattan, and in New York City, you've got over 400,000.
It's alright, just let the car be there, okay? It's alright, it's alright. I know that strategy. Put it up here instead, follow. So put it up here.
Okay.
Who don't have a legal right to be in the country, yet somehow have to pay rent and buy food and take care of themselves. And some of those folks are going to be working at businesses just like these. However, as we're learning from these recent ICE raids, there's a chance that some of these individuals could be folks with a very dangerous criminal past.
What?
ICE agents have arrested more than 1,300 undocumented immigrants, which includes more than 1,000 criminals. The other 300 or so are what he calls collateral damage, which means illegal aliens who may not be public safety threats, but were arrested nonetheless by being in proximity.
So already over 1,000 criminal arrests all throughout the Northeast. In some cases, these are arrests that are happening at small businesses that have been part of their communities for years. But ICE isn't just looking for anybody. They're going after the worst of the worst. Criminals, gangs, terror watch list suspects, some of whom were apparently working at a local seafood restaurant in New Jersey, where ICE agents ended up detaining a whole bunch of people who couldn't prove they had a right to stay in America. But that's not all. ICE agents now have permission to go into sensitive areas like hospitals, schools, churches, and other places that used to be off limits. And almost immediately, these are the folks they're finding, like this gang member with 17 prior criminal convictions. That's insane. And if you thought it was bad enough that this country is full of hardened criminals hiding in plain sight while appearing to work a normal job in an illegal manner, other dangerous criminals have found ways to profit from laws that encourage people with deportation orders to hide in sanctuary cities. Something that could not happen if people weren't getting help from the local government to break federal laws. This is how you get gang members smuggling weapons into shelters for asylum seekers. Weapons which they use to intimidate people into working at this shady business that didn't have a sign on it, which was recently shut down in Queens, and was across the street from an elementary school. And if gangs with guns are all over the place, it's only going to take a few people initially to get the ball rolling down the slippery slope of crime that New York City is now unable to stop. You've got new recruits riding around on mopeds, committing snatch and grab robberies while posing as DoorDash delivery riders. And in certain areas of town, you can buy whatever you want from a van for way less than it costs in whatever store these items came from originally. And obviously it's ridiculous that these folks are able to have normal jobs or live a normal looking life in a city like New York. But what's even more ridiculous is the fact that a lot of them were already in jail and in custody at one point when they were released to come back out here on the streets and make life worse for everybody.
Bowman says he hopes those cities begin to see the progress they're making and allow ICE agents into county jails to arrest those violent criminals.
They're not letting us in the county jail because of sanctuary laws. If we arrest the bad guy and the safety and security of the jail, which is safer for the officers, safer for the alien, safer for the community.
So it's one thing to encourage rampant criminality by helping people violate federal immigration law all across your city and state.
comment
However,
in Southgate. Someone is calling.
Types of crimes that wound them up in jail in the first place, because here we don't have any consequences for crime, and our police are banned from coordinating with ICE when they arrest somebody who's dangerous, and that person gets sent right back out into whatever community they were taken down in, which is now forcing ICE to go into places like hospitals, businesses, restaurants, construction sites, all to find people who should not be free to walk our streets in the first place. And although the ICE director has made it pretty clear that he's not trying to go out and find regular people who are here unlawfully, he's just focused on criminals and gang members. Those criminals and gang members get the fuel they need to survive from these large unlawful populations just by virtue of those folks being here when they're not supposed to be. Let's say you want to get a job at a local restaurant. Well, you're going to need something that only a gang can give you, and that would be some way to prove that you are legally allowed to be employed in a place like this when that is actually not the case. And that would be something like a green card or a fake ID or a social security card, which you can buy here on the streets of New York for around $80 to $250 on Roosevelt Avenue in Queens, which is a middle-class neighborhood with strong immigrant roots. And this does a few things to that neighborhood, all of which are terrible. First, you've got a neighborhood full of legal immigrants that is now home to criminal gangs making money. That's bad. That just leads to more crime in a community. Second of all, these gang members are exploiting people who have been ordered to leave the country but are still here, who then in turn exploit local businesses by going in there and getting hired for something when they aren't actually supposed to be working. These businesses, they can get in a lot of trouble if it's found out they've hired people with fraudulent documents. But since these sanctuary cities and states won't lock
You
up
can
their
continue.
criminals or cooperate with ICE. That in turn forces ICE agents to go to these very same businesses looking for people who they may have identified as being extremely dangerous.
Boston, New York, and Newark, New Jersey. Newark's mayor saying agents raided a small business without a warrant.
People were fingerprinted. Pictures of their IDs and face were taken.
So here you have a seafood place in New Jersey which was raided, but New Jersey's a sanctuary state, and you have the mayor who's all upset that people in his state were asked for their paperwork when right over here in New York you can buy fake.
On garde le bouton fièvre et se les patchs Compide avec une technologie hydrocolloïde avancée pour empêcher la transmission des germes et accélérer la cicatrisation. Pour que tu puisses profiter sans souci. Compide boss, tu profites. Compide sauve ta journée.
Wat als de wagen van de toekomst er nu al is bij Spoticar, het grootste netwerk van tweedehandswagens in Europa. Elektrisch, want duurzamer en uitvoerig gecontroleerd om langer mee te gaan. Spoticar, tweedehandswagens vol toekomst.
In true Southgate.
In the first place. Now, apparently, in this ICE raid, 8 people were detained, 5 were released, and 3 were taken into custody. But one of the people who was released apparently was a U.S. citizen. But look at this, with gang members openly selling fake IDs, ICE agents have no choice but to question the validity of paperwork they receive. Especially when they're raiding a place looking for somebody who they believe is
And
here you have the mayor of a place that's engaging in criminal behavior, harboring criminals, all upset that somehow the law-abiding in his state are getting swept into a federal operation to get rid of folks who are troubled. And that brings us to the next major problem with sanctuary city laws and policies. Those policies do nothing but destroy the lives of the law-abiding, especially when the federal government has to take action. Actions which they have to take to protect people, and as you're about to see, that makes living in a sanctuary city one of the most dangerous places you could possibly live anywhere in America. So this lovely place is the courthouse, and we're right by the entrance for all of the Department of Corrections transport vehicles. And one thing that the critics of these deportations miss is that a lot of times the people who are being deported were already in one of these buses or inside this building. They were convicted of something and then they were released. Not even because of sanctuary city policies, but because of other stupid policies in place in cities like New York.
I don't know where suspect this.
Federal government's put out a list of the people that have been apprehended.
He has a wanted level of 3 stars, by the way.
He has burglary, assault with a deadly weapon, and more. So
the only way you get to a point where people with that type of background are roaming your streets is if your legal system has been completely defeated by these criminals. But what's fascinating is you've got lawmakers and activists in sanctuary cities speaking up for the types of criminals who are putting people in ambulances. And even though Donald Trump won a landslide presidential election with both the popular vote and all the swing states, you've still got people in cities like New York that hate the new president so much they're willing to stick up for those who have harmed their own voters. And that's especially frightening. Here you've got this Venezuelan Tren de Aragua. They've racked up hundreds of arrests in a very short period of time. And this article says that many of the gang members arrested have been on felony charges of robbery and grand larceny, while also on charges of assault and car theft. What in the world are we doing here? How on earth can we be defending people who go out and do stuff like this? Why do we want them to stay in our country? That's ludicrous.
I think that was Black Knight.
Didn't want to see his face, but he opened up about how he and other migrants are feeling about the threat of mass deportations under the new Trump administration.
Did somebody watch the cast?
We have the worry. What will happen with us? Will they deport us? Will they give us asylum or not? Will they not help with the work permit? He's one of many living in a New York City migrant shelter.
So, I don't know who that guy was. I don't know why he's covering his face. But if he's an asylum seeker, he's got this thing called parole, which allows him to remain in America while his asylum case plays out. And during that time, he can't be deported.
At Northgate.
Interactions with ICE. Because one of the things that is just ticking off the progressive zero borders crowd is this new fast-track deportations process. And if ICE encounters a criminal, they are now apparently allowed to assess whether or not that criminal should be allowed to keep their parole status. And people who don't have parole status can be deported, and if they've been here for less than 2 years, they don't even go to immigration court. And this also applies to people who may have enlisted the help of cartels, gangs, or smugglers to get into the country without going through an official border checkpoint. And these are people who New York City has been perfectly happy welcoming into its shelters, some of whom have turned out to be dangerous criminals themselves. And we've already seen how people not in the country legally open themselves and wherever they live up to more criminal activity.
And when we talk about, as Harris was saying, those leaders that talk about protecting people, the reality is that the Americans were protected for the last 4 years, and that these terrible rap sheets, the viciousness of these recidivists here, the reality is a lot of...
So these gang members, these criminals, these recidivists, they're here profiting from a system that allows people to live here who need the help of the criminal underworld to survive and get by. That's why they're here. That's why they're selling fake IDs to help people get jobs they don't qualify for. And they take advantage of our lax laws to steal whatever they want, because you can't go to jail for stealing here, and then turn around and sell that stuff on the side of the street somewhere. It's ridiculous. And there's nothing that New York's local laws can do about it. And look at this. We've even got known gang members living in the Roosevelt Hotel, which is the welcome center for asylum seekers, right in the center of Midtown Manhattan. This is the first place people go when they come here seeking a shelter bed, and the gangs are here waiting for them. It's crazy. And the NYPD's found 41 people like this guy who have a combined 150 arrests in 2024. Yet here we help these people violate federal immigration law, and we give them unlimited get-out-of-jail-free cards, so every time they do something wrong, they can just get to go and do it again. And while these laws exist, more of these apex criminals, as we'll call them, they're going to come here because they get to be at the top of a food chain that profits from lawlessness all across the spectrum. Do you think these ICE raids are going to make sanctuary cities like New York less dangerous? And how effective do you think these raids are going to be if places like New York are allowed to stay as sanctuary cities long into the future? Couldn't these same problems come back? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.
Dit ben jij, wanneer je lek rijdt onderweg naar het trouwfeest van je dochter. Maar er toch nog op tijd geraakt om met haar...
I'm gonna cuff you.
...favoriete nummer. De pechverhelping van VAB. Daar kom je verder mee.
I'm gonna cuff you.
If you were exposed to PC gaming in the mid-2000s, you may be entitled to financial compensation. You might have played a little game by the name of Counter-Strike. I take it that you probably know at least a little about CS Source since you clicked on this video, so I'm going to skip over explaining its history and all that and just drop us right into the map, CS Office. This map is very important.
We have an I-1010 set to Firestation, a black Ferrari.
All at the same time, and yet I had never even played on it. This is the YouTube channel. He's the creator of the Gmod Idiot Box series of YouTube videos that lasted from 2008 to 2015. This series was one of the very first things that I had stumbled upon when I had first started watching YouTube as a small freakish boy. These Gmod videos were the funniest things I had ever seen, and after watching all of them, all I
Bro,
wanted
stop
to do
camping
was go
like
and play with all
NPC.
those funny characters by myself on my own computer.
I don't know who even
After a
got there,
while,
bro.
I figured out how to install Steam, begged my mom to buy me Gary's mod, which I had pitched to her as Minecraft with realistic graphics.
Another 2
and the rest
vehicles.
is history. But now that I'm older
Northgate.
and debatably wiser, I see these videos through a new lens, and I notice things that I just wouldn't have before, like this specific
Heading towards
computer
Midtown.
in the background of Gmod Idiot Box 1. This specific model of computer appears in several places throughout the map, and anytime that I'm playing CSS or Gmod nowadays and I'm on this map, I look at these computers, and because of my specific strain of ADHD, they really get me thinking. What would it be like to use the computer from CS Office? What kind of hardware might be in it? What operating system would it have? What kind of games could it play? If you're familiar with my channel, then you'll know that I like computers. Weird ones. The more obscure, the better. The less they were intended to ever be.
We have tons of trespassers, guys.
Do I find this exact motherboard and make an exact replica of the computer down to every last component in here? Or do I get a hold of a Dell Dimension and just use it as it was intended to be used, with the hardware that they would have originally come with? By doing a reverse image search of the motherboard, I found out that it's an Asus A8V Deluxe. And you know, it's kind of impressive that Google Lens was able to pinpoint the exact board instantly with nothing else to go off of but this pixelated mess. But after taking that and throwing it into eBay, I only found one for sale, which is from the UK, and straight up does not work. So, for practicality's sake, I guess we have our answer. And either way, I don't think you could actually put a full-size standard ATX motherboard into a Dell Dimension case anyways. Usually Dell's cases will only fit their weird non-standard motherboards. The way that Valve made it fit was kind of like cheating. If you...
Echt overal fibersnel streamen. Onze slimme wifi-pods zorgen ervoor. Meer info? Je bent meteen mee op telenet.be.
Okay.
If you take a look at the texture sheet for the inside of the PC, you can kind of make out an Antec logo. All they did was take this image from an Antec Sonata case review, remove some stuff in Photoshop, and then just like that, they had a standard relocation coupon just like everybody else. They had a standard computer chassis in a Dell Dimension. So with Valve having completely faked the inside of this thing, plus the fact that that motherboard is apparently unobtainium, we now know with 100% certainty that a regular Dell Dimension is going to be the way to go. In typical Counter-Strike fashion, we'll treat the CS Office computer as a Dell Dimension loot box. I'll buy the first one that I find, and whatever hardware happens to be inside of the one that I get is what I get. But what about the other stuff on the desk in CS Office? A proper battle station is more than just a PC. What were